This is a story all about how my life got flipped,
turned upside
down. I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there.
You slap someone?
I tell you how I became the prince of a town called Hackensack. What happened?
Yeah, I wonder how long did you rehearse that?
What happened?
How long did you rehearse that?
Just now.
Were you like in your boxer briefs this morning in front of the mirror being like...
Just now. I even
Hackensack,
use
New
audience
Jersey.
contact and hand gestures. Come on.
Hello, and welcome to The Remix, the video podcast that keeps you in the mix of
everything real estate.
I'm Noelle Frieson. Who are you?
I'm Brendan
Brendan who?
Frieson.
And you are?
I'm Eric Frieson. No, just Eric Anderson. Welcome to The Remix. We're really excited today because we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. But first, great job on introing us, Brendan.
He is our new host. You're going to take my job.
Okay.
Mwah. I love you. Go.
So we're really excited today, and we're going to talk about, again, all kinds of cool things relating to commercial real estate. So my favorite topic, this is what I've morphed into in my last 20 years of doing this, is commercial. And everybody who's watched us before knows that I love commercial real estate. So why do I love commercial real estate? Do you know why?
I do,
Why?
because of NRIC.
NRIC. NRIC is why I love commercial. We're going to tell you in a few minutes what NRIC is. But anyway,
Power
the
panel.
reason I'm wearing these sunglasses today is because we have a really shiny guest star today. So we're going to introduce you to our power panel and then to our guests. So Noelle, take it away.
So, as always, we have Nima Ameri. Nima, say hello. Say hello.
No, I'm just playing. Hey, everybody.
Nima Ameri is our legal eagle. He is the managing partner at Ameri Law Firm, and he knows everything legal. He is also a big-time investor, so he's great to have on.
Rockstar deal maker.
Rockstar deal maker. And then we have our flipping
and highly competitive, Eric.
Then we have our
Mine's
flipping.
bigger than yours.
Oh God.
Size matters.
Kid is here.
How about sunglasses?
Then we have our flipping and investing expert. We have Omar Sharif, who is the VP of Alexander Anderson Capital Group. And then we have our special guest. Say hi, Mike.
Hello, everybody out there. Mike Williams here.
No, she meant to say hi to us.
All that good stuff.
Michael Williams is a commercial real estate agent at Alexander Anderson Real Estate Group.
Welcome, Michael. So that's why I'm wearing my glasses. I'm going to take them off now.
Thank you for having me.
Michael, your
Michael's smile
future
is so bright.
And now that everybody took their glasses off, I put mine on.
Oh!
Good to see you all.
So, Michael, we are discussing commercial real estate. Can you give us a little bit about your background and how you came into commercial real estate?
Yeah, well, I can sum it up like this. This is a story all about how my life got flipped,
Turned upside
down. I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there.
You slap someone?
I tell you how I became the prince of a town called Hackensack. What happened?
Yeah, I wonder how long did you rehearse that?
What happened?
How long did you rehearse that?
Just now.
Were you like in your boxer briefs this
Just
morning in
now.
front of the mirror being like...
Just now. I even
Hackensack,
use
New
audience
Jersey.
contact and hand gestures. Come
Damn,
on,
Daniel.
But I'll tell you how I got into commercial real estate.
First of all, what school did you use?
Come on, the greatest school in town, obviously.
The Center
Alexander
for Real-
Anderson Center for Real Estate.
Okay.
Come on, that's a no-brainer.
South Philly?
Center for Real Estate Education.
That's gonna be the theme.
That's where
here.
he got his
you gotta be
real
like,
estate
no, man.
That's
license.
gonna be.
He didn't because it's online and you can watch it from your computer.
All right, hold on. But so just
That's
remember,
wrong.
you don't need a special license to do commercial in the state of New Jersey. Every state is different. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you for that caveat there. So, my background: I'm a New York guy, came from the field of construction manager, and was very successful in that field. Enjoyed it quite a bit. But then something was missing. I didn't enjoy it much as time went on through the years. I wanted to do something different, and I decided to leave that field. A lot of people were upset at me because I did that. How could you do this? This is crazy. You're successful. You've reached a certain amount, a level of success and so much growth that you have over there, so much responsibility. But I knew that deep down inside something was missing. I didn't quite know what that was. So I left the company, kind of ventured off into my own. I realized that I didn't want to work for anyone else. That I knew. I didn't want to work for another company, no one else. So I started to just renovate houses. I have my contractor's license already, so I did that. Then I said, okay, well, I still don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel fulfilled building houses, renovating houses. I don't really like working with these angry homeowners anyway, So one day I was doing a Home Depot run in Hackensack, and then I was driving down Main Street because I just wanted to see how Hackensack is starting to change a little bit, if anyone's familiar with this area. And then I see some signs on the commercial, retail spaces, Alexander Anderson, everywhere, up and down. And I said, okay, that's interesting. So I think quietly I was incepted by that.
Oh, you changed his
I
life,
think quietly.
Eric.
I didn't give him full credit just yet, not yet, but quietly. So then eventually, to make a long story even longer, eventually I'm watching YouTube and I'm like, all right, well, maybe I should start flipping houses. I have the know-how, it's easy, And so I'm like, all right, let me do that. But I don't want to give anybody else any money. So why not get my real estate license and I can just do it all myself? Mm-hmm. So then I'm like, okay, well, what school do I go to? So I'm Googling schools. And of course, Alexander Anderson, Center for Real Estate Education comes up. And I'm like, okay, so maybe that's a sign. I see all their signs already in Hackensack. I know the location. I know where they're going to be. So I decided to go, and I did that. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. But then slowly but surely, I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, I really don't want to deal with residential, individuals. And maybe I don't want to flip houses anymore, but I want financial freedom. I want to have my, a chance to enjoy myself. What am I going to do? And so I'm looking again. I'm up and down Main Street. And I said, okay, let me get something to eat. I park and I see the sign again. I said, all right, this must be a sign. How do I get a chance to lease out this property and sell that building? Forget about the houses. I don't care. I don't want to deal with these people who want to talk about colors and carpets. I don't care. How do I sell that building right there? And so I finished school, got my license, and then I reached out to this man right here. I didn't want to reach out to anybody else. I wanted to go straight to the top. If I'm not going to talk to the person at the top, then it's nothing for me to do.
Still the top is still.
I'm just being honest. So I reached out to him.
You can drop ceiling.
You can attest to this. You can attest to this. I reached out to him and I said, listen, I want time with you. Mm-hmm. I don't want time with anybody. I want time with you. And I knew that if I couldn't get time with him, then it's probably not going to work. I need to be there. And he eventually got back to me within a couple of days. And
wow,
yeah, seriously, right? I'm like, how did that happen? Now I really feel special. Inside joke, but
that was a dig against me.
No, I'm just saying. So he did, and then we started to work together, and it's been magic ever since.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I mean, Mike's been with our team for a couple of years now, and we love him. We love the fact that you have such a depth of experience in the commercial building industry, and jumping into commercial sales and leasing and development is just a natural for you, and you've done a great job so far. And we're excited to have you here today because we want to hear, what was it, Mike, that was lacking for you in that residential world, or what didn't click, and why did the sunshine on commercial for you? What were those points?
First, can we just say that commercial, right, is retail space, restaurant space, big warehouse, office space, things like that, development deals, things like that.
Basically where you don't live.
Anything but a single family condo or house.
Correct.
Right. It's not an apartment, that's residential, or a vacation home, a forever home, condo co-op, those are all residential. Now, 87% of real estate agents...
You can have a co-op that's commercial or a condo that's commercial.
All right.
87% of real estate agents go into residential.
Wow.
Right? So you have 12% who see the light, and the rest are in residential. So how do we convince people, right? You've seen the light. They've seen the light. They have on their sunglasses. How do we show people what is the beauty of commercial?
Well, we're going to talk about that. So give us your points, what you liked about or what you thought would intrigue you here.
All right, so just to go back to your original question, right? What's something that I noticed that I didn't really want, especially particularly as it pertains to the residential? Really, in a residential sector, not to sound funny, I appreciate the statistic of 87%, but it didn't move me. It didn't excite me. I don't really enjoy, showing people around to their forever homes and picking apart, window treatments and paint colors and the type of flooring, and that's just not my thing. I like to deal with. This is going to sound a little funny, but I like to deal with more professionals who look at matters from a financial standpoint or a mathematical standpoint. What makes sense to you, right? And if a property makes sense to you financially, then we can move forward, and get a deal done. I did try the residential thing just a little bit, the residential sales, and it was awful. It was god awful to me. Now, no offense to Adam, our partner who's not here right now. He loves it, and he's very successful in his own right with it. But it's just something that I knew I didn't want to do. And at this stage in my life and my mentality, I'm thinking, if I don't like something, then I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to move forward at all. I'm going to change gears, and I'm going to do something that I believe I like, and I'm going to pursue that until I love it.
Awesome. And how do you love it so far?
Oh, I love it, man. There's just no end to the possibilities in the field of construction. So you 80% individuals doing residential, stay over there. No, I don't want to say that. I don't want to be too greedy, but I mean, this is if you're really looking for success, financial freedom. Not to say that you can't get it from there. You certainly can. But in the commercial sector, it's a sector that's pretty much overlooked, but it's a small group of people doing it for a reason. So if you really want to reach success, then I greatly think that this is the field for you.
So that's a good point. So commercial and residential both have tons of successful people in it, but it's just, I find, first of all, you're not going to get a totally objective opinion from either of us on this side of the table because we both love commercial. So, maybe Omar, who does more residential in his past, will be able to fight for the residential side of things. But I just love that you can take, if you're a business-minded person, and it's hard to say that because there are residential people that are business-minded, but maybe if you're a business-minded person who wants to do more like B2B, business to business, that's where the commercial aspect works better for you. You could still be business-minded, but you may not mind dealing with the homeowners, because the homeowners traditionally are it's less of a challenge. It's more like you're just showing stuff. And it doesn't require the same level of, I think, creativity. Although I know some of us residential brokers
are fat, wet shit on everyone doing residential.
No offense to the 87%.
Like not a lot of creativity. And, you bird brains, you're doing your bird law.
Oh my God.
So,
listen, we love residential.
We love residential.
We love
100%.
residential.
Oh my
we
God.
love
I
residential.
love my residential agent partners.
I love lamp.
Come on.
I love residential.
You got to say something.
I could make a case for residential.
Okay, please, Omar.
Good case.
Guys, by the way, 87% of you,
Yeah.
according to this statistic, just got told off.
And keep in mind,
Talk about preaching and knowing your audience.
and it's the same license to go into commercial as it is residential, and that license covers more residential than it does commercial to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
So residential is the entryway for most people to even do commercial, number one. And it has commercial aspects to it. So if you don't want to work with homeowners, buyers, which I also don't, you could start flipping houses. You could build a rental portfolio.
So Omar hates people.
He's not off.
Oh man, this is classic.
But Omar does do a ton of sales.
But I do. So I do transactions, but I feel the pain of what Michael just mentioned because I don't deal with
Communicating with normal people buying their dream home.
no, because
Torture.
It's a different.
So happy. I'm not the mean one this time.
Okay, but there are people who like helping others, who
Yeah.
like
So hold
helping
on.
people
But
find
true,
their forever home.
But you can also help people in commercial. It is helping at the end of the day, solving
absolutely.
problems.
You're helping
But-
in both areas.
Yeah, so it's a different pursuit because in residential, I totally agree. When you deal with people who want to find their forever home and they're searching for 5 different towns, looking at 40 different homes, who wants to deal with that?
Adam just did for me.
87% of our viewers.
But they start out. I don't think
Oh,
they
baby
start
Jesus.
out in residential,
Yeah.
and eventually they evolve.
They
So-
evolve. Oh my! You
All right, this is
unevolved Neanderthals
I think-
doing residential real
Hold on,
estate.
coming out
that's
right.
Tell everybody, what are the hours in commercial?
I'll put it to you this way. In residential, no doubt you're going to be working in the evenings and on weekends, 100%. Commercial, it's pretty much normal business hours.
Yes.
So, Michael, let me ask you
Different
this.
lifestyle.
In residential, how would somebody achieve financial freedom in residential?
Evolution. You have to evolve.
Right? Because that's what a lot of people want. So
Leave the cave.
if that's what someone wants,
Yeah.
the commercial aspects of residential will get you financial freedom, right?
100%.
Now, why is that? Why is that?
That's commercial.
Yeah, that's
Commercial aspects,
He's-
but you're still dealing with
Flipping
homes,
houses
right?
is flipping in a business.
right, correct.
Agreed.
And you're flipping
a lot
for
of terms
yourself.
being thrown around here.
Yeah,
Very confusing.
But meaning the
Agreed.
business side of residential, not so much the consumer side.
What's the business side of it? I don't understand. What's the business side of
The side where Omar doesn't
residential?
have to talk to people.
I'll let the agents handle that part.
You buy the house as the investor.
Yeah.
You're not the agent. You
Oh,
flip the house.
I get it.
And then you let the
Okay.
87% of the unevolved do that legwork.
Commercial. Anyway, Omar, what were we
So
saying?
the financial side of it, just like Michael mentioned, financial, the numbers, the calculations, that side of residential
Right.
leads to financial freedom.
Right.
So there's that aspect within it, but it doesn't involve dealing with.
Well,
the
that makes sense for you because you're more quiet. You don't want to get out there. Like, I think if I were a real estate
You
agent,
shy rascal, you.
I would totally love to talk to people and and be able to
So
show them homes
I would-
and
I would
window
agree.
treatments and crown
All right, so-
molding.
No, so I think that's a big misconception, and you do have a point.
That you're
people
shy?
who are extroverted would more likely, be out there talking to more people and whatnot. But at the end of the day, you want results.
Yes.
You could be talking to people all day long for weeks, and if they're not buying, if there's something that goes wrong in the transaction, you're not fulfilling your role. And that's where a lot of people get frustrated with residential, and they don't continue to pursue it.
All right, you guys want to hear the truth, the real truth, and nothing but the truth. All right, this is a skewed conversation. What they're not telling you, all the hype and the pomp of the commercial is that at the end of the day, you make possibly more money per transaction, but they are farther and fewer in between, much more subject to economic flows, right? And the reason you don't have all those long hours is because you kind of are working on a slower work-based schedule, and your consumers, although they may not be talking about window drapings, are talking about zoning compliance and use and credit and construction build out. So it's not like commercial's super easy. You work 9 to 5, have a 2-hour lunch, and then you're in there making money. All right, I'm the only Scrooge McDuck of this group. There are just two different worlds. 87% of you are not idiots. I would say possibly 40,
No one
but
said
not
idiots.
87.
we
Unevolved,
didn't
whatever.
say those words.
All right. Well, but I'm embellishing, but still, it's just different flavor, completely different flavor,
Yes.
two different worlds.
Some people like chocolate, some people like vanilla, and then
Some
there's
like
those that
strawberry.
like that black and white shake at Shake Shack where it's a little bit of each.
That's the one I
I
like.
put the malted in there.
Or you like sorbet, like Eric.
I don't eat sorbet.
You know
I love
what
sorbet.
what the issue is though?
Mango sorbet, if I had one right now.
I'm going to say one of the biggest issues as it pertains to residential, and I'm not discouraging anyone from being a residential agent by any means, but $1 million listings New York, $1 million listings LA, selling Sunset. There are all of these different platforms, that glamorize the residential.
None of us are
agents.
pretty enough
With
to be
TV
on
shows.
Sunset,
Of
except
course,
Noelle.
We are.
Well, no, yeah,
Three of us, 4 of us are.
we're
Maybe
pretty
not
good.
you.
I think we're pretty good. I
Yeah.
think we're pretty good.
But go ahead.
We're talking LA, bro.
But
Only one of us here is LA.
There's all of these different platforms
it's Omar.
that glamorize the residential sector of real estate. And what happens is when you're a brand new agent, which we're gonna eventually get to and talk about, how do you really navigate through a brokerage and to find success in any agency, whether residential or commercial. But when you look at these programs, right? And then you go out there and get your license and go to a brokerage, and it's not what it seems to be within the first 3 or 4 months. What are they going to do? You're going to want to fail. You're going to want to pull back just a little bit, right? Because of what's seen out there, right? So whether you're doing residential, whether you're doing commercial, the main point is you're going to have to work hard regardless.
Yes.
Right?
Sure.
Regardless, in order to achieve a certain level of success. And as Nima mentioned, commercial agents deal with certain things that are very different than residential agents, but that's not to diminish anything. that
Rasha
anybody's
has a
doing.
question. So Rasha says, by any chance, and this sort of goes into what you were just saying, do you provide mentorship programs for agents interested in commercial? But how do you break into commercial, guys? How do
You
actually
email
start?
Eric Anderson at the remix.
And then Hannah just said, this sounds great. How do you get started? So I think.
Bro, you got everyone on the Kool-Aid now.
What happened?
You're
Hold
about to
on.
change statistics.
Hold on. I think people.
come on.
This is
Eric,
the kingmaker here, guys.
Eric, can you please tell us how do you get started in commercial? What are some of the first steps you take?
You have to be interested in business. And if you're interested in business, or if you're interested in entrepreneurship, or if you're interested in dealing with other businesses, then that's a great way to know whether or not you're going to succeed.
Can you go to any brokerage?
You could go anywhere to get started, but traditionally there's different types of commercial brokerages out there. There are some that are super big, like national, and then there are some that are regional, and then there are small residential agents, or there are residential agencies that think that they can do commercial. So Mike and I would tell you have to go to a place that has a presence in commercial. I personally think the smaller mid-size is better. If you go to one of the bigger ones, you're going to literally be a glorified paper pusher for 5 years. You're not going to make any money, and then you're going to get frustrated and you're going to leave. So try to go to a smaller agency that you feel will help teach you and help give you experiences right away. So one of the things that we do is trial by fire. We just throw you in, and we let you get your feet wet. We let you walk in the hot coals, and then we're there to rescue you.
Yeah, but
you make people walk in hot coals with wet feet?
He's
Yes, that's why it's a little cooler.
I feel like that's torture.
I know for a fact that you spend personally a lot of times with agents. That's why you went to him, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
But this is not about me. But so anyway, so
But I'm saying
let's talk
mentoring.
about what. Yes, so there's lots of opportunities. We could talk about that. But one of the really exciting reasons that I love commercial, and we talked about this at the head of the show, NRIC. So Noelle, I know you know what it means.
I do.
You probably don't, or you probably do. But Mike, what does my NRIC stand for?
No Riri's in commercial.
No rules in commercial.
Little
No
man over
rules
there.
in commercial. So now, if any of our instructors are watching this podcast, they're going to start cringing. But when we say no rules in commercial, right? Your mind is the limit of what you can and can't do. So if Mike wants to sell a property and he represents a buyer and a seller, and Nima is the bank, and Nima's like,
Why not? It's got to be the bank.
and
or
Nima says you're not
Scrooge.
qualified, right? If you can get that buyer and seller to agree to something, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it can be transcribed into writing by an attorney, it can pretty much be done. Whereas in commercial, there's so much paperwork that has to be done. There's so many rules that you
Residential,
have
you
to
got it
follow.
backwards.
In residential. So for me, when Nima mentioned how hard it was to be in commercial, because there's so many things, which there are, and it's not that it's hard, it's just you have to know them. But for me, and I know for Mike, it's harder for us to have to write a residential contract than it is to go in front of a zoning board.
100%.
Well, let me explain
I
to
don't
you
know
guys
about
from a.
100%.
No, it is.
Totally.
It is. Listen,
Yes.
you can't fake it till you make it in commercial. Residential is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Like you do a couple deals, you've seen them all, right? There's obviously things to learn on a little bit, but you look at a house, there's a home inspection, there's a checklist, you go through your checklist, you're done. Commercial, there's no checklist. There are no rules. It's just not regulated, right? The way residential is, because the legislator believes that a commercial transaction effectively typically involves seasoned businessmen, and they are.
women.
Excuse me.
And women.
Well, I think businessmen is gender neutral, right?
Business people.
Yeah, I mean maybe there's no men and women at all. Business.
Oh my God.
So,
Business people.
yeah.
Yeah. I should take the buzzer away from me.
So in
Right on time, too.
Go ahead. Please finish.
in that context, right? So commercial is less regulated because it involves people who are more knowledgeable. Now, the legislator basically baby-fed residential real estate. You have a form contract that a bunch of lawyers and the New Jersey Real Estate Commission designed. That contract is what everybody signs. Everything is effectively form templated and then modified by attorneys if you're in North Jersey at a subsequent stage. There is no such thing as a form contract in commercial, right? Because commercial is effectively a business transaction. It is customized by virtue of the attorneys
No
and
rules.
the people involved, and they have to. No two are created equally. There's not a level playing field.
So
right?
there's no contract. What is there?
So
No, there's a contract, but it has to be written by the lawyer.
Right, but basically if Mike and I were buying from each other, and one of my caveats was you have to bring me a pound of
Ostrich
sorbet ice cream or
Mango.
ostrich
I know,
meat
mango.
that I could give to Nima at
Mango.
the closing table, and that could be written in the contract, and that could be part of your deal.
And that's what it is.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
And there's no
Well,
rules with that.
You could do that in residential too.
Can you?
But
Yes.
I think this is so the real commercial would be more like it wouldn't be like abnormal. It would be more like, okay, well, I'm gonna buy this space, but it is subject to me going and getting approvals to convert it to a barn or 50 apartments, or I'm gonna rent the space, but I'm not gonna just rent it. It's not just a lease like a residential. I'm gonna rent it. You're gonna give me 4 months free rent. You're gonna hear my blueprints. You're gonna build out the office space to my specifications, and then you're gonna tether my rent price per square foot on a 6-month interval basis. And it can get
Complicated.
very complicated based off of what your business needs or desires are.
Yes.
And the factors are different as well. But also,
the financing is entirely different.
different world. So it's not like
How is the financing different?
Different rules, different time frames. All different banks have different types of programs. You could be creative if you can get someone to
Higher
finance
interest.
it. The interest rates are
Simple.
different.
Right off the bat,
Yeah,
you got
that's
higher
just
interest.
one of them. But
Yeah.
you could even get, if you have some rich uncle who wants to give you the money to finance a property, you could do that. If we want to go to Omar because he just made $1
Seller
million
can do it.
selling flipping houses
Seller
and borrow the money from him,
Seller
we
finance.
can do that.
You can do that
There's
residential
no
too.
rules.
You can do that residential. too.
No,
But-
it has
but-
to be a family member in residential.
No.
You don't have to have a CO to buy something.
Yeah.
There's so many different things.
It's not regulated, right? The government doesn't feel the need to have to hold your hands through
Yes.
it to protect you. But the reason that it's not 87% 13 because of that, it's because, and you heard context about Mike's history and his knowledge, but what he didn't really get into that. He didn't just wake up and walk into a commercial world and say, hey, I know commercial. He had extensive experience. He sat across the table with the likes of Donald Trump and negotiated construction. He understood the ins and outs of effectively what a commercial build or construction is, and that gave him the ability to be able to do commercial real estate. If you take a couple classes online, you can't walk into a world like that, right? You can't.
Yes, you can if you take them at the Center for Real Estate
Look,
Education.
you can go to the best school in the world. You tie that now into what Eric said about where you work. You need mentorship, and that's why you don't see people in commercial to the same level as residential, because you're not going to walk in and play with the big boys, right? It's a small community. You need to have knowledge, and if you don't protect your client's interests, you can get into trouble. So
That's
it's
why
not
you have
that
lawyers.
easy. But no, the agent has liability. So when you have, and I wouldn't, Eric said go to small places. The only small place I would honestly recommend would be, and this is very unique, is somewhere like Eric Anderson's, the facility.
Thank you.
Why?
I'm not talking
Because,
about
people have to understand the context of what I'm saying, right? You're uniquely situated where while you do residential, you were one of the faces of recreating Hackensack. Hackensack, although the seat of Bergen County was pretty run down, and I'm not tuning Eric's horn. I like to make fun of him more than big him up because he's my friend. But ultimately, the reality is, Eric is in a unique position. Hackensack, although has other people involved now, is what it is today because of the vision he saw for it years ago. And with that build, right, he has a foot deeply into the commercial world that exists here. A lot of local mom and pop shops don't have that and won't have that because they don't have those commercial deals, right? They don't have the people don't trust them with it, right? They're not the massive national or international brokerages that will make you an intern getting coffee for 8 years until you become a member of their team where you make no money. So I wouldn't say go small unless you have vetted the way you did. You didn't vet the brokerage firm. You vetted Eric. You emailed Eric. That's why you wanted to be involved with, Eric Anderson, right? Because you knew he was going to give you that one-on-one time. You're not going to get that most other places. So don't find your local brokerage and they say, yeah, you want to do commercial. Come on. Everybody wants to sign up an agent. You're just an agent. They don't pay you a salary. Why not have more? You need to go to a place where actually will train you like Eric did. He spent the time to do that.
Thank you for that.
No, I'm not going to high five you. We'll go back to making
All right,
fun.
anyway.
That was it.
Can I just
Yes.
I just want to.
That was it for the entire year.
Add to that because that was great. No, that was great. But I do want to add to that though, in a sense that when you do pick a brokerage and you do go to a brokerage, it is key to have face time. You go to the larger companies, especially the larger commercial companies, and what you're going to find is that it's not going to be they're not going to put you in a situation where you'll have a diverse amount of commercial deals that you can be working on. You're going to go either into the industrial department, you're going to go into the retail department, right? It's going to be very, very different.
What is the difference between the
when
two?
you go smaller, retail and industrial? Well, industrial, you'll think about warehouses, right? Facilities, manufacturing facilities, and so forth. And retail, you'll think about storefronts where you have your restaurants and your bars and lounges and
people do specialize
like that. Yeah,
not always.
People do specialize, but if you go to a smaller company, though, the benefit is that the smaller commercial companies tend to be more diverse. So you're going to come in, and if you can get that face time, like Nima was saying, you're going to really have to do that and shadow someone who's very, very active within the commercial field. But if you can, then not only will you be working with warehouses and manufacturing facilities, but you'll also be looking at retail spaces, office spaces, and then you'll have a nice diverse portfolio that you're working on, and then you can determine which field you want to work in and specialize in, or you can choose to do everything.
So, Mike, tell us what a typical day looks like for you in commercial.
Leave out the drinking.
All right, so let's say that's 3 hours left. Okay, all right, so no, I'm just kidding. No, so
Busy, though. Go ahead.
Wild
If
card.
it was Friday at
Go ahead.
2,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell us
actually,
what
we
a
don't have time to drink these.
What
days
is a
because we're
typical
busy.
day?
no, it's so busy.
What's a
but-
typical day?
So the typical day is in the mornings we have a morning huddle, what we call with our team, Eric and the rest of us in our department, where we talk about what deals we have in place and what do we have to look forward to during the course of the day. What are we going to do? What's our day look like? Each individual person. We come here early in the morning and we discuss that first before we go our separate ways, right? We give Eric the download to let him know what we're working on, and then he gives us feedback and lets us know if we're headed in the right direction or not, or what we have planned. Once we get that, done, now myself in particular, I start to make phone calls. I like the mornings to just make a ton of phone calls to different
Mom's,
individuals.
cousin, friends he hasn't touched base with
Brother,
for a while.
No, but what we'll do research, and then we'll make phone calls to a bunch of people who may be inclined to want to sell their property or want to lease out their properties, right? That's
How do you
before I
know?
even.
How do you know that they're inclined to do
So
this?
yeah, so we do research. We do excellent question. So we do research. Typically, I like to save my research for the night before. I like to do my research in the evenings. Personally, that's my quiet time. That's time where I can just focus. And what I'm
What
looking
kind of
for.
research? What are you looking for? Yeah.
I'm looking for. I'm looking.
Let me get there, girl.
Hold on. I'm looking for business owners, right? Property owners who may have owned their properties for. I'm not going to give away all of our secrets because you have to see Eric's course for that. But
World of Commercial,
That's what I tell you, you gotta read your-
recareercenter.com.
You got to read your obituaries.
But you got to go.
I only
into his
taught that
course
one time.
to see all of the particular details. But essentially, we look for people who may be motivated to sell their properties, right? And then also people who may be motivated to buy their properties, perhaps buy other properties. Perhaps we know people who are doing 1031 exchanges. You can find that out who they are, right? Where they need to get rid of a property, but also buy another property so that they do not have to pay Uncle Sam. They don't want to give out, pay any capital
So it's
gains
public
tax.
knowledge.
Tax.
It's public knowledge.
It's not public knowledge, but there's ways to
There's
find
ways
ways.
to find out. But you have to visit Eric's course in order to see what these ways are. We're not going to just give it up for free.
4 easy payments and $99.99 gets you that
So
information.
you're breaking your morning up. You're doing your huddle. Then you're doing your call.
Doing all my calls. That's my morning, first thing in the morning, and then
Lunch buffet at the strip
and then
club.
Oh my God. Where's
my
son?
afternoons. I like to save my afternoons for doing showings and walkthroughs and dealing with a lot of my buyers. So we'll go to different properties. Could be warehouses, could be office space, could be land looking to develop. Perhaps we're going to the town to meet with the zoning officials over there to just see what can we do, how can we build up certain properties and so forth, right? And so once I get through all of that, I hit the potential sellers in the morning. I get to my buyers and showings in the afternoon, and then the evenings, post 5 p.m., we'll say, that's when I do all my research and take my notes for the next day, and then we do it the next day.
Awesome. So now let's say you find
sounds
a scenario and you have someone who wants to make an offer on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the offer process like in commercial versus the offer? We'll go over residential. Residential, there's a standard contract. So
We
that's out
can
there.
let Omar talk about
What is the
residential.
offer process?
87%.
The 87%.
I
There
don't
you
waste
go.
your time
What's
with
the
this
offer
unintellectual
process in
nonsense.
Right. So when we're dealing with a buyer who's very interested in a particular property and says, hey, Mike, Eric, or whatever, I want to make an offer. All right, no problem. It's just, this is beautiful, right? He's narrowed it down clearly. We've already worked with him. We've already, vetted him out, so to speak. But we're going to need some financials from him to ensure that he can afford the property he's looking for. It could be in the form of a letter from a bank or, his bank statements, tax returns to prove to us at least, so we can have the confidence that, yes, we can, in fact, get this deal done. Once we've done that process between us and our client, the buyer, right, then we'll generate what's called the letter of intent, or an LOI is what they would, is what we call it, right?
Can I tell you a hilarious story?
Yeah.
So someone asked me for proof of funds recently, right? And I don't know, I was just in a saucy mood, right? And it pissed me off because I bought a bunch of properties from this person, all cash closings. So I just went online and I Google imaged bag of money, right? So
And that's what you sent him?
I took a picture of a bag, like a duffel bag filled with cash, and I sent it to this agent, right?
Did it work?
Do not do that, guys.
No,
Yeah.
No, he said no.
they didn't think I was
Yeah.
kidding. They freaked out. Called me like 8 times. I was like, like, might as well play along. I'm like, no, just send that over to the other agent. Like,
Stop.
That's my. It's been 2 days and I'm still.
You said that to
I'm
a
still
residential
going with
agent,
it.
didn't you?
Yeah, I'm still
I know
going
it.
with
I knew it. You see? Come on, man.
When that person believed me, it's been 2 days and I'm now committed to this being my proof of funds.
You
Oh my
can
God,
pay
you're playing
cash.
reindeer games with them.
You
That's
can pay
ridiculous.
cash.
That's ridiculous.
Can you not pay cash at a closing?
Can you?
Yeah, you can. I
Can
mean,
you really bring a bag
That's
of
the
money
that's
to a
the,
closing?
the seller's
Legal tender.
responsibility
It's
to
legal
deal with
tender.
it, but you can pay cash.
Title may make you fill out a form or something, but it's literally just went Google image and typed in bag of cash, and they were so into it. Like I can't. I can't do that. I'm just sticking to it now. This is my proof of funds.
So ridiculous.
People still use cash.
Next
It's
week,
very rare.
I really hope that they didn't submit that.
Oh man.
All right,
Next
so
week,
back
I'm
to
gonna go.
back to the
No,
LOI.
no, no.
Anyway, so we're gonna write up the LOI,
ahead.
the letter of
LOI.
intent, right? We're gonna write this up, and inside the letter of intent, the components of it. This guy is insane. The components of the letter of intent. Really,
I think I am.
It's where we discuss who the buyer is, who the seller is. We list the property that we're referencing. Right? It could be a lease. It could be a sale. Let's just say sale for now, right? We list the property, some characteristics about the property. It could be the size or whatever. And then you really talk about the purchase price. How you're going to fund it. Is it a cash deal? Is it done by mortgage? Is it a seller financing? Another thing that Eric really elaborates on his class. A very good class. You should go take a look at.
I'm talking.
So this is
Contingencies.
This is centered for real estate here. Being honest.
Contingencies.
Eric's blushing. He's gonna put his sunglasses back on.
I'm not talking about Eric as much as the class.
What
though,
are contingencies?
So contingencies, right? It can be, I want to purchase this property contingent upon something, right? So you want to say it's, or you can use the word subject to, or it's essentially how should I say this, Eric?
And something has to happen in order to close.
Yeah, something has to happen exactly in order to purchase that property. So you can iron out all of those details right within the letter of intent. Also, you talk about due diligence period. So a period of time where you may need to do some due diligence.
Due diligence.
What do you do?
Due diligence. Tell us what
What is due diligence?
It's a period of time where you can take the time to really investigate the property, and you would iron out certain things that you may need to do.
Can you back out at that point, like during due diligence?
Yeah,
Okay.
you would list during that period. Yeah, you can.
Can
back out
the
of the deal.
seller back out during your due
The
diligence?
seller can back out of the deal.
Okay. No?
No.
Why can't the seller back out of the deal?
During the due diligence period?
The due diligence period is for the buyer, only for the buyer. But
So by that point,
Definitely not asking the lawyer this legal
buyer-
question.
So why don't we ask Nima? No. So the due diligence
man.
period, you can lay out however long a period of time that you need, and it could be for environmentals. It can to do environmental investigations to make sure that the property is clean and it doesn't have any contaminated soil or anything like that within the property. Any sort of inspections that you need to
but this
do,
sounds like
and so forth.
this sounds like the same thing in
So typically
residential.
in commercial, it's just a due diligence period is a blanket time frame
Okay.
where I could wake up in the morning and I could decide that the sun is not out today and I don't want to buy the building.
Okay.
Right? That period in commercial. Well, I've been doing this for 20 years and you're wrong. You can get out for any
All right,
reason.
guys. Evan, I'm wrong.
You can get out for any reason during a due diligence period. It's a blanket, any reason. You put 30 or 45-day time frame, you can get out for any reason. The seller can't get out during the time, but the buyer can.
So-
okay, we're not talking about like having a lawsuit or any of your creative ways of getting out. We're talking about the blanket, basic bare bones due diligence period.
So we just went from saying that commercial is unique to every single transaction to there being blanket unique.
The term due diligence and what it means. Yes,
It all depends on what you guys negotiate.
We're talking about the regular
You can
version.
say due diligence is only subject to environmental major structural.
Correct.
It
All
could
right,
be
so
anything.
the way we do due
Do you
diligence
put that in a
is-
contract or
yeah,
in the LOI?
it's all in a contract, and we have our due diligence period. Then we would have an approval period or an environmental section, whatever. Some people do their environmental during their due diligence, so it really depends on the scenario. Okay, the way when Mike said someone could get out during due diligence, what he meant was if during that due diligence period you came up with something that you didn't like and you addressed it to the seller and you needed the seller to do something, then the seller at that point could say no and get out of the contract. But if nothing is found during that due diligence period and the buyer is happy to move forward, then the seller still has to move forward to the next step. Unless Nima comes up with a creative reason for it not to happen. But in
I saw
reality,
a turkey walking across and it's an endangered species. Have to cancel the deal.
It's still very good to iron out what you want to do during that particular period of time. And I've seen plenty of letter of intents where it just put due diligence period 45 days, and it's like nothing is spelled out, which in my mind doesn't really make sense. Maybe there's a scenario where it calls for that to be just as non-descriptive as possible until you get to the contract phase. But I typically like to spell it out. What are we going to do during that due diligence period? We're going to do some environmental inspection. We're going to do structural inspection. We're going to do a building inspection. We're going to do these very things. And if, as Eric mentioned, it doesn't, things doesn't shake out to be clean, environmental, or there's structural issues, and the seller does not want to address these issues, correct it, or give some money back to the buyer, hey, then the buyer can have every right to say, see you later.
yes.
Bye.
Now, let's talk about LOIs again for a second. What is our version of an LOI, and then what version of the LOI do we hate?
1 second. For the 87% of the people who have not yet evolved to this point, can we explain what an LOI is?
We did.
did.
You
already.
said letter of intent.
Oh, you were worried.
Explain.
Well, you were worried about
Explain what the letter
Okay,
of
what
intent
is the letter?
your bag of money. Letter of
Right,
intent.
exactly.
So instead of a contract, so residential attorney. Omar, what is it? What do residential agents do?
Oh, he's not going to know. He's
A sales
residential.
contract.
No,
A sales contract.
Purchase
wait.
contract.
Sales contract. It's typically regulated, I guess.
Right.
Standard.
There's a
I
standard.
mean, I know
Why
an
are we
attorney.
butchering such an easy thing?
It's just it's like
It is a non-binding letter that describes the general terms of your intention to purchase a
That's what a LOI is, a letter of
That's what I'm
intent.
talking-
But
he's
we're
talking
saying
about
what a residential
residential
contract
contract.
typically
Why are we going back
is
in time?
approved by each state, and they have a version of what their licensees for that state can generate.
Right.
Right? In commercial, you can't do that. In commercial, we need a Nima. We need a lawyer to draw a contract.
You need a salt.
We can only make the terms.
Correct.
Okay, so remember, a letter of intent is your what? What is it? It's your what to the world? Your first
Introduction,
impressions.
impression.
So what? Tell about the good LOIs versus the bad LOIs.
What about it? See, you trying to walk me into that? I don't want to say what the
Don't
bad
mention
LOI
any names.
I don't want to say what the bad LOI
No
is.
names,
You
no
know?
names.
We come on this show to bash people, all right?
No names.
So give me a name.
He's going to give you a residential agent.
Does it start with
version of
Derek?
a LOI
Derek Manderson.
versus a professional.
So what is it? So what?
I don't want to bash them, but
Spit it out.
No, you
Come on.
don't.
No, but
The show ends within an hour. You've got to go.
A residential agent's LOI is just not good because they just. You see, that's what you want. Right? That's what you want.
I want that.
It's just not good. Typically, they use a standard document and they try to doctor that document. So they modify it, in which they think it's going to be acceptable, to a commercial agent, and it always
How dare
has
they.
probably about 80%, right? 80% of the content on their letter of intent it can be discarded, completely thrown out.
So we've
It
taken
doesn't-
over
it doesn't
1,000
apply.
letters and intents. We've reviewed them, and that's where we come with these statistics from. It does
It
not
doesn't
come
apply.
out of our butt.
Doesn't apply. Exactly.
God.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't apply. I mean, typically you'll find a residential letter of intent is probably like 6 to 8 pages, and it and it just has just a tremendous amount of information, many of which does not even pertain to a commercial deal or commercial property.
so much hate in your heart
But
for
no,
that?
I don't. I love residential agent. But
Why you got hate in your heart, man?
Mike.
Yes.
So what does your letter of intent usually look
right,
like?
yeah,
We covered
both,
that.
so-
yeah.
So it's but it's not going to be that long.
It's
You
not.
keep
It's
it
not
very
that long.
direct.
It's not really extensive. A commercial letter of intent. It's typically about approximately 2 pages, which covers the main facts. Right.
Okay.
What's the deal contingent upon?
Right.
How much is a deal? What's the property? What's the approval periods?
And what are the contingencies?
Right.
Unless if there's
got
a lot
it.
of contingencies, like
Right.
in a development site, then it could be
Yeah.
3 or 4 pages.
Sure.
It just depends. But the point that I wanted you to bring up was
Is how crappy the residential real estate LOIs are.
some non-experienced residential or non-experienced commercial agents
Yeah.
will take a form, like it was like
You can print it out from.
a form from somewhere, and it
Yeah.
actually has like the word name, and then there's a line, and then it
Yeah.
says like purchase price, and then there's a line.
Yeah.
And people actually fill out like a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Like they're a DMV.
None of any of
filling out a
our
form.
viewers are watchers, and if the 87% of you guys stop watching our show after this,
Which they won't
And,
because we do love
remember,
residential.
and it's not that we're making fun of this,
No.
but it's just like you have to put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
And here you are as a commercial agent or trying to get in to make a commercial transaction. Type up your LOI. Don't handwrite it. Don't fill in the blanks.
Have you ever gotten a
Don't
handwritten
leave the
LOI?
lines? Oh, we do
Yeah.
all the time.
All the time. I've got one that was just in the email. Just these are the terms. Here you go.
And remember, you're showing this to your seller or you're showing this to your client, and it sets the stage across what people expect from you. Even the lawyers see that because we forward all the LOIs over.
So from a lawyer's perspective, why we want an LOI is because we have to eventually draft a contract, right? So while the LOI is not binding, as long as it says it's not binding, we look to the LOI to put in the general terms of the agreement. It is sort of our North Star. It guides us into what the framework of the agreement is, and then we plug in all the rest of our fancy stuff. But
So non-binding.
we don't mind
just
if
means-
residential people
Just
do it.
not non-binding just means that it doesn't hold value. It's there. It's like a general agreement, but you still have to go into a contract stage. Whereas when you're doing a residential, that contract when it's actually signed, there's some bindingness to that or not.
So New Jersey is unique, right? Where you don't need a written agreement to have an enforceable contract for the sale or transfer of real estate. You just need to have the necessary elements of a contract, which effectively is a meeting of the minds on all the material terms. Because of that, if you write out an LOI and the nitty-gritty hasn't been hashed out and the LOI really is just sort of the framework outline, if you don't put in there it's not binding, that signed LOI can be a contract and can be enforceable. So LOIs are enforceable unless you are competent enough to put in language in that says this is not enforceable, which is why you really want people drafting your LOIs, not necessarily whether residential or commercial, but people who have experience and understand the ramifications and the consequences. Typically speaking, people who are unique to that field have more experience and know these flaws. So not that residential are just not intelligent or can't do it. It's just they have not had the benefit of experience. And listen, you learn how to walk after you fall, right? So since they haven't fallen, you don't want to be as a buyer on the falling end of someone's learning experience. But that's more of the reason why you want someone with experience in commercial if you're going to go that way, as opposed to just a lack of knowledge.
And I think typically how Mike got into it, where he started doing flipping houses, that gave him that business transaction level. When you're buying and selling stuff and you're doing it for a business purpose, it actually is a great transition into the commercial industry.
Mike, even before that, Mike, why don't you tell us about what you were doing before that when you were negotiating massive contracting deals with the likes of Donald Trump and people like that?
Yeah. We built the previous company I was working with built the second Trump Tower in Manhattan, and I kind of got thrown into the wolves too, just upon my first project. I was a change order engineer at that particular point in time, getting into the industry. So I was handling, change orders the size of $1 million change, just by changing a certain aspect of a sprinkler system in a building to $1 million, or adding a certain plumbing stack that's $3 million. So yes, I had to sit in front of Donald Trump, which is very, very interesting. And and
Were you
very
on The
and very
Apprentice?
and very intimidating. No.
I didn't make the cut.
No, he actually sat in on all of the meetings for his building.
Oh, okay.
Very intimidating.
Okay.
Very intimidating presence, by the way. But I had to sit down and negotiate with him and his team of engineers and individuals that were working with him. But it was great to get my feet wet. It was a great experience for me, 100%. And from that, it sort of catapulted me into my career in construction, as Nima mentioned, of running projects, $200, $300 million projects, building schools and high-rise condominiums in Battery Park City, schools in Queens, schools in Bronx, and college in Manhattan. So I did have a lot of professional experience within the business world and so forth. So which definitely helped me.
I want to ask a fun
When you know
question.
how the sausage is made, it's easy to sell the sausage.
Yes,
I want to
that's my
ask. I
question.
want to ask a fun question. So I want to
point, Nima.
know, what are the biggest commercial deals you've ever worked on? Like what? I want numbers. I want numbers that are going to make me all kinds of happy.
Well, I'll trump you on that one.
Biggest commercial deal.
So the biggest deal that we
Biden
worked,
me.
the biggest deal that we've worked on, probably a $20 million assemblage, which actually hasn't even closed yet. But the biggest check that I know that we've worked on and gotten was about $490,000. Now,
Nice.
it did take, and there's commercial people out there doing stuff that are much bigger than us, and we know that Nima has probably gotten a check for $10 million.
yeah.
well, we're
of
going to
course,
go because I know
there's no
you
doubt
just
about
did
that.
the-
And Omar has probably gotten a $30
You
million
guys see
check.
how mean
But-
everybody is to me?
But
I have feelings. People may not think
there is
that,
a point
deep down
that was
inside.
brought up earlier about time frame.
Okay.
Right. It does take time to do some of these bigger deals. So if you're doing an assemblage, which I know Mike loves, and he's going to explain what an assemblage is to you, it could take 2 years to close. So,
But then when you're getting your $500,000 check, okay, take 2 years.
So there's people out there that are literally
Right.
have run on fumes and drive that car for the last 6 months until that check comes in, and then guess what? It may not happen. So you have to have lots of these things. But anyway,
and what's,
And
the
that-
big,
and that was the
what's
key.
yours? What's your
Yeah.
biggest one, Nima?
250 million.
there you go.
250 million.
What type of a deal was that?
Yeah.
It was a commercial hospital acquisition.
Nice. Okay.
Awesome. All right.
Wow.
Tell us what I was asking, which I totally forgot what it
What
was.
is
No, that's okay. You're talking about putting together assemblages.
What's an assemblage?
What's an assemblage?
So just putting together assemblages.
But
So
we didn't ask Omar.
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go
what's
ahead,
your?
Omar's a person too here, guys.
It's-
Don't worry, Omar.
No, you're right.
Listen,
You're
just
right.
because he does residential doesn't
No,
mean we
you're
can
right.
delete him from
What's,
your
right.
what's your? Oh, well, let's compare.
So I
What
do
is
both
your?
residential and
Tell 'em how
commercial.
big your
I
Okay,
got
what's your
both
biggest
sides.
commercial?
Everybody wants to share.
Everybody
Oh,
can
okay.
get size.
Okay.
Very true.
Some people are bigger than others.
Very true.
No, I wouldn't say that, but
Or what's
biggest
the biggest residential
Should I?
deal
I
you've
think-
seen?
a residential.
Show us.
Residential. Well,
That you've seen. It doesn't have to
numbers
be
wise,
yours.
the biggest number, the biggest deal
Can't talk about someone else's size.
that we're currently working on is 8 million.
Okay. So, wow.
Currently
So,
working on.
That's big, but it's not.
Oh
big.
man, if the girl in the group is telling you that,
Wow.
This
I don't mean it like that.
Damn,
And
guys.
let's not forget my
All right,
baby
let's
is
go
in the
back to the
audience.
assemblage. What is an
Wow.
assemblage? Mike, what's
Wow.
an assemblage?
So just a fun fact before I even get there. Me being coming from the contractor, me being from a contractor, right? From my previous history, I work for developers. So I built their particular, properties for them. And I've never really looked at before, how did they acquire these properties? What was here before? I know there was a couple maybe brownstones or so forth here before. How did they get that? How did they acquire that? What process they had to go through? Well, somebody was there to help that particular developer put together an assemblage.
kick out all
right?
the low-income housing and the old people.
Now, why you gotta go? No, not at all. Don't ignore that one.
Ignore him.
So that's what they eventually did. So now, working here in the commercial industry and working on putting together assemblages, what we would do is we would take a location or a particular area, and then may have multiple parcels on it. Maybe it could be commercial spaces like
different
strip
houses.
malls or a bunch of different houses or something that's could be old, or maybe the people within that area are more inclined to sell for whatever reason. We'd go to these particular individuals, these parcels. We talk to these individuals to see if they would like to sell. and then we put together a nice package, a nice area. We'll take all of those properties, all of those parcels, put them together, right? And essentially, we can then sell that to a developer who would then knock down all of that land, all of that property,
Put
right?
it in an Amazon warehouse.
And then they would build a brand new property. So if you're ever in the Hackensack area and come to Hackensack and you look at all of those nice new developments, those luxury rentals and that are being built there, well, they were once properties that had to have been knocked down. There were properties that these sellers sold,
Fanciest
knocked down,
word gentrification's ever
and
been
then
explained
rebuild.
to me.
Properties that were separate owners, separate
Even
ownership.
I'm like, wow, what a
And
beautiful
yes.
process.
Yeah, hit it again, please.
It had to be put together. So, all right. So, would you say an assemblage allows you to come out with some real cool creativity and be proud of what you're accomplishing?
Absolutely,
I wonder if
absolutely.
you know what I call
To be able to be involved on the assemblage
not
where
gentrification, it's
where you look into an area like particularly one that we're working on right now, and it has a bunch of stores there and so forth. An old gas station. I won't give too much more detail, but then eventually that's going to be rebuilt into where you can look at something that you can be proud of, something where new communities and people from adjacent towns and neighboring towns have a chance to live in and enjoy, and that's really invigorating.
price
All right.
per foot.
All right.
So hold on,
all right,
hold
all
on.
right.
What is your bet? What's your favorite thing? Because I have a favorite thing about commercial.
Yes.
So what is
Yes.
we're gonna ignore it. What is your favorite thing about commercial?
Oh my God, that's a
Get out the people.
that's a loaded question, but
crazy
this was something that that Nima had mentioned. He mentioned that doing certain deals in commercial would be seen as more complex, right, or complicated. I see it as being more creative. I love the creativity in commercial. I love the fact that there are no rules in commercial and that there's no end to the possibilities of what you can actually do within this field. I love working in retail. I love working in industrial. I love, working the multifamily deals that we're doing. I love it all. And it's when you get into it, you really see how passionate that you too can become from being in the commercial field.
Love that. And the other great thing about commercial is you have repeat customers, because if you're dealing with a business owner, they could be buying stuff every month or every year. If you're dealing with investors, they're always looking for more stuff. So it's just unlimited opportunities. There's no reason you can't create opportunities for someone to buy. You don't have to wait for a house to come on sale. You can really build that opportunity and you can get someone to buy it. So it's super exciting.
What Eric's saying is you can only sell someone their dream home once.
Well,
you can
true.
sell someone a cap rate unlimited.
Good
Yeah,
point.
That's,
Actually, I
that's
like that.
very good.
I like
That's
that.
very good.
You've redeemed yourself.
I
No,
like
I was
that.
trying to
He's
troll.
back. He's back. He's
I
back.
was trying to troll.
No, she's
I wasn't
good.
trying to be.
All right,
I
guys.
was trying to
Listen, I have a
back.
couple housekeeping things, guys.
Housekeeping.
You want to subscribe to us,
Hit
right?
that button over there.
You're going to subscribe on YouTube. You're going to subscribe on Google Podcast and Apple Podcast and Spotify. Hit that subscribe button,
Are you
right?
going to subscribe?
He already
I
has.
already have.
You're under 18. How did you subscribe?
So,
And if you need a calculator, you just go like this.
this is-
No, it's super smart. He schooled me on pi.
so listen, guys.
The kind you eat?
No,
3.14.
Oh, all right.
I want to
She
know.
went 2. He went 16 decibels.
I want to
Rating
know.
on me.
Last thing. Commercial or residential? What should all of our listeners go into?
I mean, let's come on.
I know what it's
Says
going to be.
residential? Talk about wild card.
I'm gonna say get into real estate.
Ah,
Competition.
nice.
Get your
I'm
foot in
voting
there
for whatever you
into
run
those
for.
doors, and then whichever decision you make is gonna be the right decision.
So long as you evolve.
Well, I should go last.
Okay.
Why last?
I say I've seen you guys with your meetings, and it actually is really, really, really interesting to hear how you guys go back and forth and the kind of creative things you come out to make deals happen. So even though I think I would enjoy going to see other people's houses and
You're definitely a residential person.
I don't know if that was a good thing, but I think that it would be interesting to do some commercial deals. Commercial or residential, baby? Just say a word. Commercial or residential?
Commercial.
Commercial.
All right.
Yeah.
Nobody tells me what to do.
There he is.
Nima.
My response, I don't know any of you guys. I'm looking at a screen, right? So for me to tell you what to do and for you to actually listen to me would be the most ridiculous thing in the world. Do whatever your soul tells you is the right thing to do. Find the fastest way to make money and then figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank
Almost
you,
know what I have
Nima.
to say.
All right, Omar.
Right.
So I like his find the fastest way to make money, but for most people, that's going to be residential. So start in residential and work your way up.
Wonderful.
Awesome. So
Eric, what about you?
obviously my favorite thing is commercial, and the less commercial agents out there, the better for me
And me.
and Mike. However, go out there and try them both. Make sure you get some exposure, because really it's whatever your heart tells you, whatever you enjoy doing, and you'll figure it out. It'll just slowly come to you. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank
Mike, thanks
you.
for being here.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
me.
Mike. Thank you,
Mike,
Power
thank you.
Panel.
Remember,
Thank you, my baby.
if you visualize it, you can own it.
Yes.
So see you next time.
All right, bye. Bye,
If you
guys.
can find it, you can own it.
You can find it, you can fund it, you can flip it.
If you can get the funding, you can own it. If not, piss off.